and you're listening to a WNBA State of Mind, the sports podcast for women about things that matter to us and more. So come join us on your podcast platform. Hey everyone, welcome to a WNBA State of Mind where we discuss more than basketball. And I had to elaborate on that because I say a WNBA State of Mind, they just always think it's just about the WNBA, and it's so not. We are vast over here. Today, we have the pleasure of having Marvin Toliver on the show, whom I worked with during the NBPA Top 100 camp. And we had the opportunity to foster and develop the mental, physical, and spiritual mentality of the top 100 players in the country and abroad. Marvin, what's up? The cycle breaker and the therapist. How you been?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to be on here on your podcast. Finally, we've been going back and forth trying to find some days, so I'm glad this works. But yeah, I'm doing well. I am, on the West Coast right now. I'm getting ready for a trip to. I don't know if I told you, getting ready for a trip to Tokyo. So we're leaving I'm leaving next weekend to Tokyo. So be there for 2 weeks. So I'm good, doing well.
I'm jealous. I need to get to Japan. I need to there's some places that are on my bucket list, and I know Japan is absolutely beautiful. One of my teammates played there. Actually, two people from Old Dominion played over there, and I almost play over there, but they kind of shut it down for a little bit when I was getting ready to start playing. And so, but talk to us about your career and how it started in mental health, because that's a tedious subject, and you really have to be, you really have to want to help people mentally to get into that field.
Yeah, so and let me introduce myself. I don't know if I did that. So I'm Marvin Toliver. I'm a licensed clinical social worker in the state of Pennsylvania. I'm a therapist. I'm at the Radical Therapy Center in Philadelphia. Used to be 1/4 of a collective called Melanated Social Work. Podcast is still alive. We were four Black and brown therapists just talking about mental health, just trying to make it more normalized in the Black and brown community. And just trying to change what mental health and what the field has been so far, because it's been very much, I'll say, traditional therapy, and so we like to use more radical therapy that's more appropriate for us. And so so I've always been a helper. So I remember always wanting to help teachers in elementary school. I remember in middle school, breaking up fights and trying to keep, middle school relationships together. I'm like, no, but it's not that bad. You know what I mean? And so I've always enjoyed helping people. And so, and that's one part of the answer. So sorry, I always kind of give two parts. So one is I always enjoyed helping people. Two is I needed someone, around that time as well. So I was dealing with some identity stuff. I was dealing with some self-esteem stuff. And so I wish that I had, an adult at that time, middle school, high school, to really help me out mentally. But as far as kind of my career went, I went to San Diego State University, go Aztecs, majored in communication, minored in sociology, did some work in Florida with an AmeriCorps program called City Year. So working more with kids in Miami-Dade County. Worked with a program called Job Corps, and then finally got my master's from Boston College in social work in 2016, just because I knew that I was good at this. I wanted to help people in some capacity, and social work provided such a broad range of possibilities. And so one of my earliest clients actually was a professional basketball player who played overseas, who was transitioning into retirement. And so he was having a lot of stress. And I think a lot of people, when they think about athlete mental health, they think about the game, the actual game. But from my experience, a lot of these guys they've been in front of large crowds and audiences and AAU, college and all that stuff. So the game isn't necessarily what's stressing them out. It's the stuff off the court that then impacts the game. That's typically what I've been seeing. And so and we can talk a little bit more about that, but yeah, I just kind of had to run with it. When the pandemic happened is when I quit my full-time job with the school district and then went into private practice. And so I was freaking out. So I was just like, I'm not gonna get no clients. I just quit this full-time job that I had a salary, every other week, good benefits. Like, what did I do? And so I really just had to kind of hustle and try to use what I could from like social media, and build up that platform. So I started, about 2 years ago on social media with, I don't know, 100 followers. And now I'm at 25.6 thousand followers. And so, just really, just really being creative, just really kind of making it work and really kind of changing the conversation of mental health that needs to happen.
Yeah, that's an absolutely fantastic story. And, mental health is it's a tedious subject, and one that us African Americans must adhere to, but usually don't. Why is that?
Yeah, I think, when we think about mental health, it's typically been either for quote unquote crazy people. It's been, quote unquote for white people, or you got issues, let's have some white people stuff. It's been or we kind of use religion and say, we can just pray it away, right? And so, not that religion cannot be helpful. Religion absolutely can be helpful, but you need more than prayer to heal from some of the deep-rooted trauma that some people have, right? And so I think that's one thing that we do as a culture is we don't really talk about things. We sweep things under the rug and then kind of try to push forward without addressing things. And what happens is those things that get swept under the rug, we sweep more stuff and more stuff and more stuff, and now it's this big old lump under the rug, and we sitting there tripping over it all the time, right? And so, it's a combination of all of these things. Also, when we think about more masculine sports like basketball, like football, there is a toughness that's expected, right? And so, when the perception is that someone is mentally weak, then that perception is almost like, oh, we can't take a chance on them because they're crazy. They're inconsistent, with their playing because of their mental health stuff, right? When everyone, and this is important, everyone has mental health, right? Everyone has mental health, just like everyone has physical health. It's, are you taking care of your mental health, right? Just like, are you taking care of your physical health? Are you taking care of your body? Are you taking care of your brain and your mind? Yeah, so that's that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was getting ready to ask you that question too, because it is a stigma. It's a stigma, and it's like a sign of being weak. And when it's actually you being strong and you being aware of issues that are going on within you, mentally, things that are going on with you spiritually, because life can hit you with some serious blows. And I know over the last 2 years, and we elaborated on this before when I came on your show on Instagram. But, a lot of the guys that we were working with, they really tapped into what we were talking to them about, because they were really feeling, a certain type of way after the pandemic, and coming back and still, feeling a little nervous about that. And should I wear my mask or shouldn't I? Wear my mask while I'm out here playing. Does this guy have a shot? Oh my God, this guy over here sneezed. Am I gonna get sick? Am I taking it home to my parents? All the way to some of the family members that a lot of us have lost, and some people have lost whole families. And so to be able to talk about those things was absolutely powerful. And as athletes, we are expected to be strong, and we are expected to be courageous at all times. And if not, like you said, somebody will put a label on them, oh, he's unstable, mentally unstable, we don't want them to be on the team, whatever the case may be. But most of us are struggling with something mentally.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on a few things that maybe, athletes need to tap into more, to combat stress a little bit during the season, even for the kids out there that are going to school, that are in college right now, and trying to manage school and trying to manage whether I'm going to start and trying to manage, am I going to have enough playing time? Trying to, am I going to get to class on time? Nobody's waking me up anymore. How am I going to manage all of this time? What are some good tips that we could talk about?
So one of the things that I always say, and this is for athletes, this is for literally anybody walking on this planet, is that you have to have a solid community. You have to have a solid foundation, one. I think that we have this idea that we have to do everything by ourselves and self-made, and I got to grind and all this stuff. And like, yes, be on your grind, work hard, but also know that you have so many other people who are rooting for you, who are rocking with you, that want to help you when you're struggling because they want to see you succeed, right? And so this idea that we have to handle everything alone, we gotta scrap that, right? Because even in the game of basketball, you can't do everything alone, can you? Right? And so we really have to think about how we give support and how we receive support too. One of my good friends, her son plays football in the state of Nevada, and he's like well known, like the school knows him. They just went to Idaho, I think, for like a training camp, and she told me that he was hurt, and I was just like, because I was gonna come out to Nevada, and turns out he has torn ACL, contusion on the knee, and tears in his MCL, I think they said too. And so that right there messes with an athlete's mental health, right? Because you're expected to start. You have people at school. This is high school. You have people at school who's like building you up, and now you want to be out there, and now you have this injury that is not going to allow you to be out there. That is devastating potentially to some folks, especially if you're getting into if you're trying to go to college to play, right? Because now what? And so now, for a lot of these guys, it's their dream. Not only is it their dream, it's their parents' dream, it's their family's dream, because we also have this mentality of like, when I make it, everybody coming with me too. So now there's this feeling of like, damn, I just let everybody down and myself. What do I do now? That's a really, really hard space to come back from, right? It's a really hard space to come back from. And so like, that's one of the things. Also, outside of sports, there's still family stuff. There's still relationship stuff. Some folks come from communities where there's community violence, right? And so like all of this outside of the game stuff affects folks mentally. And if that's not healed, if that's not taken care of, if there are no outlets right now for folks, then you're gonna have a tough time, because we can only push that stuff to the side for so long until it starts to show up. And I think that's what some of the guys at the camp, some of those players were saying too, right? Some of these NBA legends were really opening up about their mental health struggles, because they're playing the game, but then going home and being depressed and drinking and smoking and doing all the drugs because they're so lonely or they're so depressed, right? But we can't show that, or else people will think they're quote unquote crazy. And so there's so many things. I think that we have to remember that, like, yes, folks are athletes, but they're humans first, right? They're humans first. And that the human, just navigating the world as a human, right, is hard. Stuff is going to come up. It's hard. And we cannot try to just like sweep it to the side, push it under the rug, because it is going to affect us. And I think that's what happened. And I know we're going to get into some other folks, but I'm a Warriors fan, so I got to mention Draymond. I got to mention Draymond Green and the punch, right? And so for a lot of people,
please,
sorry, it looked like you were going to say something. Go ahead.
No, please do. Elaborate. Because I need a different perspective.
So for a lot of people, and also we only saw a very short clip of that interaction, right? And so a lot of people will see Draymond, and we folks who know Draymond know Draymond, right? And so, but as loud as he is, as seemingly as an asshole. Oh, can I curse on him? Seemingly as I'll say like the muscle of the team that he is. I I don't think I've ever seen anything like that happen with him. And I've been a Warriors fan for a long, long time. And so I think for me, it's not about what he did. It's about what's going on with him that got him to that point to want to strike another player. And so my again, people are focusing on the punch, right? It's because it's an act of violence, it's aggressive, all of these things, it's Draymond and blah blah blah, right? Fine. What I'm thinking about is what's going on with you? Because again, you're a human first. And the human part of Draymond, because this is not like Draymond, the human part of Draymond, something is going on. And so how do we make sure we talk about that part so that ain't nobody punching nobody, ain't nobody pushing nobody, there's no more aggression, right? And so then what happens at the same time is that there will be sides that are taken on the team, right? Because there are players that mess with Jordan and there are players that still rock with Draymond. But at the end of the day, people are focused on the punch. So then people that may have been on Draymond's side may have gone to Jordan's side. People that, maybe was on Jordan's side just hate Draymond a little bit more on the team. You know what I'm saying? And so now you have a team issue. And in my opinion, I think that's what's happening with the Warriors right now, which is why they're on this 4 or 5 game losing streak, because their team cohesion has been shaken, and they really need to get it back together. Because even though that incident was between 2 individuals, it affects everybody, right? It affects, am I now gonna pass the ball to this person now? Am I gonna not pass the ball to this person now? Because I remember what you did 2 weeks ago. It's on video, right? Now it's affecting people's salaries. Are people gonna be re-signed? Are people not gonna be re-signed? Right? So and then that again goes into that mental health piece, because all of this is happening and you still have to play games, right? And so, for me, the Draymond situation is much larger and is much closer related to mental health than I think people think.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I thought about that myself. I don't know him as a person. I've gotten the opportunity to rock with quite a few of the guys. Mm-hmm. But everything that you see and know about him is definitely, from his podcast or from, him being on TV a little bit here and there, to his personality on the court. And we all know about edits and how they can make you look like Dennis Rodman if they wanted to without his face. So, in saying that, I already knew that the team was done. I knew the team was done once he did that. And once they decided that they weren't going to reprimand him, was even worse. I think that they should have suspended him for a couple of games. There should have been something more than just that happening, to prove a point and to also, let the players know that we're not going to stand for this. If we have this type of behavior, no matter who you are, you're going to be reprimanded. So I don't think that they, and I'm a Warriors fan, I don't think that they did enough in that situation to make it known to the public and also known to the organization and the team that, this is unacceptable. Like, the guy didn't even get a suspended game or anything. You know what I mean? He still gets contract honor for the year. And so we had elaborated on this a while ago, talking about how important it is to make good decisions, as an athlete, to help minimize stress during the season. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the impact, because we're on that subject now. The impact that Kyrie Irving or Ime Udoka is having on their teams, like Brooklyn and Boston. Both of their choices have, completely mentally impacted their teams. And what can a person do when the whole team is under duress? Like, not everybody has a Mamba mentality. Not everybody is KD. KD out there balling. KD do 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 do
Yeah.
do, and you can see him. He's stress free, and you can tell the superstars in this league because they can still perform and have the world talking about them, have the world saying pretty bad things about him, and the team not doing well, and him still performing. But not everybody can do that. I mean, to go from MA to Kyrie, and to now Nike's taking away money from him, and he's just losing all kinds of stuff, and it's just it's a reflection on the team, it's a reflection on the organization, and anybody, unfortunately, who's a part of that gets scrutinized too, gets put in a box, which is really unfortunate. And much love, and I hope that the guys keep their hands on Kyrie right now.
Yeah. I'm not going to speak too much on Kyrie's situation because that's wrapped up in like some political stuff, and also I haven't.
It's just
and I haven't done the research to really speak to have like a strong opinion on it. What I can say is absolutely it affects the mental health of the folks around him. Right, Kyrie is a huge piece, right, in the Nets organization. And so for you to then have someone who's saying things that are, I'll say, not vibing with the general public, and so much so that now there are statements by the Nets that are coming out. And so now there's like this, because again, relationships, what do relationships on the team look like? Because some people rock with Kyrie. So some people still rock with Kyrie. Some people are just like, ooh, actually, I'm going to take a step back. Some people never did, and now they probably don't like him anymore. And so now we have all of these different emotions and energies around this one player who is, such a significant piece of their organization. Now we have, so that's a thing just within the team. Then we have the public and the public's perception of what's about to happen. Like, okay, well, how are you going to either support him or how are you either going to reprimand him? And then some people think that he should be supported. Some people think that he should be reprimanded. And so then we have all of these different thoughts, opinions. You have to think about perception, like all of these different things. And it comes down to the players, right? Because if the players are winning, no one's going to say that much. Right. But if not players, if the team is winning, nobody's going to say that much. If the team is losing, now there's going to be like, oh, was it because of Kyrie? Was it because of this? Was it because of that? Was it because of that? And so then again, there's pressure to win. And so, talking about the former coach of the Celtics as well. One, I don't even think that should have been public information. Like that was just really strange for me that like something like that sounded like it was very much, it should have been an in-house, similar to Draymond's situation. It should have been handled in-house. So the fact that it did get out is a problem, just my personal opinion. But again, you have people who really trusted in their coach, right? That he had built these relationships with this team. Like you could tell Boston was on, and probably still is, on the road to win another championship. And he, when you have a coach, when you have a strong leader like that, and you can kind of tell that he's a strong leader for them, to have that person now removed, like, that's your leadership. And so even if the new coach that comes in is good or is decent, there's still those connections to that past coach. There's still those emotions around how and if he even should have been removed from his position, right? So all of these things are impacting relationships with each other, relationships with other coaches, relationships with like with everyone. And so that affects that team cohesion. And that team cohesion is the most important thing in my opinion. And so you kind of asked, how do they come back from that? the so my opinion, I've been doing therapy for a good amount of time. I've done group therapy. I've done, healing spaces, right, where there's been some type of harm caused at maybe an organization, maybe a larger group level. And so what we've started to do, and this is some language, like mental health language, and we started to do kind of some more restorative practices. What that looks like is that it's very community oriented. So for example, the entire team comes together and processes what it's like, right? For all three of these situations, for Draymond's situation, for Kyrie's situation, and for the what's his name, coach, Ume's situation, right? So you have restorative practices looks like everyone together. We are, because it affects everyone, so we got to talk this shit out together. Oops, sorry. We got to talk everything out together. So we got to heal together. Absolutely. We got to make sure that everyone is on the same page, that everyone feels okay about this, because again, we're a team. You win together, and we also lose together. But right now, the team is losing because there are these little factions and little splits that are happening. And so that's some of the work that I do. Is I do individual therapy with players. I'm working with an NBA player right now. I do team kind of restorative work as well, right? And that's something I'm going to be kind of shopping out to teams too, because like that's something that a lot of folks don't have, but a lot of them need. Absolutely. But yeah, so like more of a kind of a joint restorative process, I think would be really good for all these teams and any other teams that are going through something like this.
Yes, absolutely. And you're listening to a WNBA State of Mind. Adrian Goodson, and I got my guy Marvin Toliver, the cycle breaker therapist, here with me today. We're chopping it up for any of you who just joined on with us today. And I promise you, I have had coaches come and go in the middle of the season, beginning of the season, and end of the season. And it's a tough place to be as a team because you have no idea the direction that you're going to be headed in. You don't know if the coach that's coming in is going to want to put in a new system or continue on with what you were doing. And all of that depends on when that coaching change happens. And I know that Boston had their mind set on having a repeat season with the possibility of going to the dance. To have that disrupted like that was crazy. I can't say to you that I wasn't expecting something to happen in Brooklyn again this season. And I think that a lot of the fans were probably like, okay, are we going to go the whole season with everything okay? Or are we going to go through the season with, chaos and, mayhem and, nobody really knowing where anything is gonna end? Who's gonna be the coach? I think people kind of already had Steve on the bubble. And so, to see all of this, I'm not really surprised with it. I just wish that it never happened because I really adore KD. I love Ben Simmons also, and I'm talking about them as people, getting the opportunity to sit down and talk with them and chat with them. Never have gotten the opportunity to sit down and talk with Kyrie, but I'm sure that there's some great things about him. He's done some fantastic things, even to, pouring $1 million into, the WNBA so that the players who decided to opt out for the COVID season could have some income, which I felt was, was very heartfelt. And so I know that this guy has a good side. So I was really wishing and hoping for the best. It absolutely didn't turn out to be that way. And so, even to them at this moment, and I don't know if it's just news or if it's really serious that the Nets are entertaining the Boston Celtics coach. And so, it's just mayhem right now. And how do you navigate through that as a player? A lot of therapy. And even when I was having successful seasons, I still went to therapy. That was something that they offered to us, to sit down and talk to somebody. Oh, this is great. Some things off my mind. some things off my chest, things that have nothing to do with basketball that I may be stressing out about. You know, it's a healthy way to go when you can actually sit down and say, you know what, I need to talk to somebody. This is getting a little too thick for me. It's affecting my decision making. It's affecting every single aspect of my life right now. And so I would say to anybody who's out there that's struggling with some type of mental health, go talk to somebody. You know, there's people out here. You know, there's plenty of hotlines if you can't afford it. So, you know, how can people reach out and connect with you on social media?
Yeah, and I just want to echo what you said about therapy. That's how I usually end all of my talks: is go to therapy, get a therapist, talk about it, don't hold it in. So thank you for naming that. And that was one of the things that I really loved about the NBPA camp, was that they had, you know, us and a couple other therapists there, like specifically for the mental health piece. And so I spoke to some of the players about it, and they, you know, during those times where we were in groups with them, they really enjoyed that piece, right? And so that's just something, again, I want to echo, is see a therapist. The NBPA, y'all have y'all program. If you want to work with me, I have openings right now, and you know, I do have experience with professional players. Again, currently working with NBA players. I'm going to be working with more players in the future, and also developing a group. So if any teams, you know, want to have a more cohesive group, I am creating a 10-week group for sports teams as well. So yeah, if you want to connect with me, again, my name is Marvin Toliver on Instagram. I am mToliver_LCSW on Instagram. That's probably where I post the most. You can also visit my website www.marvintoliver.com. If you want to search for some of the stuff that I've already done, you can look on YouTube and just search my name. I have a TEDx talk that I've done, and then I also have a little short video. I was featured on Oprah's The Color of Care documentary as a cycle breaker. So check me out on all them things, and yeah, I'm out here.
Absolutely. Like I said, you're listening to a WNBA State of Mind. I have my guy Marvin Toliver, the cycle breaker and therapist, on the show. We're talking about sports, just psychology, period, and ways to get over the hump. If you're struggling with something, the best thing to do is talk about it. Make sure you come and follow me, the WNBA State of Mind. Download it, iHeartRadio, Anchor FM, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Overcast, you know, Himalaya, Castpod, wherever you listening to your podcast, download a WNBA State of Mind. I appreciate you coming on the show. Sammy Sosa, I love you, Martin.
I love you back. Thank you for having me.
Yes.